Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever found yourself thinking about the pieces of our history, digital or analog, that just disappear? The videos, the photos, the recordings that were once out there, you could find them, but now seem utterly impossible to locate.
It's a really compelling idea, isn't it? Because lost media, well, it's so much more than just like something getting misplaced.
Right.
It's this huge category. It covers everything from, say, an old film reel just decaying into dust, to content that's been deliberately suppressed, or maybe stuff that just sort of fades away into obscurity until it's basically invisible.
So today we're going on a deep dive. We're looking into some truly unsettling corners of this whole thing, pieces of lost media that are so disturbing, you really can't find them easily online anymore.
Yeah, they're really hidden.
We wanted to uncover the stories behind why they vanished, and maybe think about what their existence and then their absence tells us about, well, ourselves and the internet we live in. So for you, as someone curious about the unseen, what do these sort of elusive fragments actually reveal? About the limits of what we know, maybe, or what gets public access?
Okay, so our first journey into this lost media world takes us way back, thousands of years actually, to a medical practice that sounds like it's straight out of a horror film. Trepanation.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about deliberately drilling a hole into someone's skull, often to relieve pressure, apparently, but maybe for other reasons too. But what's really interesting is how this ancient ritual found its way into modern times in a pretty bizarre way.
It's fascinating because this procedure, it was incredibly widespread. You see it across so many different cultures for thousands of years. And, it wasn't just about physical relief.
Oh.
Different civilizations thought trepanation had these huge spiritual benefits, or could even, alter consciousness.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, sure, it was definitely done for physical things like skull fractures or swelling.
Yeah.
But history shows it was also done to, expel what they thought were evil spirits.
Or to improve circulation, boost energy, maybe even help reach higher states of consciousness. The reasons were just all over the map, depending on the culture. So it makes you wonder, right? What happens when modern people, totally removed from those ancient beliefs, decide to revive such a drastic practice for themselves?
And some people absolutely did. So fast forward to 1970. We meet Amanda Fielding. She was 27 then, quite a character. And she became this big advocate for self-trepanation.
Right.
She had this deep belief that doing it could improve blood flow to the brain, raise consciousness. And she actually filmed herself doing it.
She filmed it.
Yeah. Meticulously documented her own self-trepanation with, get this, a dentist drill for a documentary she called Heartbeat in the Brain.
Wow.
And for decades, that film was pretty much considered totally lost. Maybe destroyed on purpose. People only really talked about it in, hushed tones in fringe circles.
Yeah, the full Heartbeat in the Brain film, it did eventually show up for a very, very limited public screening back in 2011.
Okay, so it wasn't completely gone.
Well, not completely. And actually, little clips of it had been used even earlier in a 1998 documentary called A Hole in the Head. But the key thing here is that the complete film, the whole thing, it's never been widely released to the general public. Never. And this whole situation, it really brings up a tricky question, doesn't it? About that line between, say, artistic expression, personal freedom, and what society as a whole is comfortable seeing.
Yeah, where do you draw that line?
Exactly. I mean, historically, societies have always wrestled with this stuff, right? Censoring or restricting things seen as too graphic or dangerous or just morally upsetting.
Sure.
But those restrictions, while maybe they protect some people, they also risk just erasing important historical bits or artistic pieces. Fielding's film and its limited access, it perfectly shows that tension. It's this constant push and pull between wanting public insight and these, perceived ethical or psychological boundaries.
Okay, so moving from, ancient practices brought back to life to the sort of very modern horrors the internet can sadly amplify, we see a similar kind of pattern. The digital age, it's amazing, it's revolutionary. But it's also made it disturbingly easy for horrible content like extreme animal abuse videos to just spread like wildfire.
It's awful.
And many of these horrific clips, unfortunately, have gone viral, which then leads to massive outrage, communities trying to find the people responsible or just working like crazy to get the content taken down.
Yeah, the internet's reaction to that kind of deeply upsetting video can be incredibly fast and, well, unified sometimes.
Yeah.
We've definitely seen those big examples, things like the awful shovel dog incident or Luca Magnotta's kitten killer videos before his other crimes came to light.
Ugh, yeah, I remember those.
Those cases got huge public attention, massive outcry, and it often led to these immediate, large-scale efforts to remove the content. The collective disgust really spurred people into action. It shows the internet's power not just to spread stuff, but also to try and, cleanse itself.
And then there's one called Zippocat. It's this chilling name for a video. Well, it reportedly shows a young kitten being set on fire with Zippo lighter fluid.
Oh, that's horrific.
It's so profoundly disturbing that, thankfully, it mostly just exists now as screenshots, people sharing warnings about it, the original video itself. It's proven almost impossible to actually find, even on the huge internet.
Right.
So why is its scarcity so significant when we talk about lost media?
Well, what's really compelling there is that collective human reaction, people actively trying to suppress, to essentially lose certain media because there's this deep belief it's just too harmful to be easily accessible.
Like a community decision.
Kind of, yeah. After a really intense backlash and these coordinated efforts from lots of online groups, Zippocat was, well, for all practical purposes, effectively scrubbed from public view.
No, it might still exist somewhere.
It's certainly possible, yeah. Maybe on some forgotten hard drive or in the really dark corners of the web. But the case shows this emerging power of online communities to basically censor content together.
Wow.
Through active reporting, public shaming, constant pressure on platforms, it effectively makes the content inaccessible even if it's not truly permanently destroyed. And that brings up a really interesting question about what lost even means in the digital age. Is something really lost if a copy exists, but you just can't get to it because of this sort of decentralized, collective digital pushback?
That's a good point.
And while this community scrubbing can be, a really vital protective thing, it also creates this kind of unexamined digital suppression. It blurs the lines between accidental loss and deliberate widespread erasure.
So who decides?
Exactly. It forces us to ask, who ultimately gets to decide what should be forgotten, and what are the long-term consequences for, the historical record of the internet itself?
Okay, let's shift gears again. In 2007, just days before the anniversary of the Columbine massacre, a really horrific event unfolded at Virginia Tech.
Yeah, that was terrible.
Seung-Hui Cho, a 23-year-old student there, carried out what was, at that time, the single deadliest mass shooting in American history. He killed 32 innocent students and faculty members, and then tragically took his own life. The entire nation was just gripped by sorrow, confusion, everyone asking that agonizing question. Why? Why did this happen?
And it's often the case, isn't it, in these situations? People around the perpetrator afterwards say they didn't see any obvious red flags, no clear signs of what was coming.
Right, you hear that a lot.
And the Virginia Tech shooting was like that. Friends, acquaintances, even family members expressed total shock. They said there was little to indicate Cho's intentions were so violent.
So where did the answers come from?
Well, the only real, though deeply disturbing insight into his troubled motivations came from this package. A package he actually sent to NBC News.
He mailed something during the event?
Yeah, between the first shootings in the dorm and the later massacre at Norris Hall, he mailed this package.
Wow. And what was in it?
It was this chilling, unprecedented look inside his mind. It had he actually said, and this is a direct quote from the released parts of the manifesto, "Wasn't enough, you brats. Your golden necklaces weren't enough. You snobs, your trust fund wasn't enough. Your vodka and kiak weren't enough. All your debaucheries weren't enough. Those weren't enough to fulfill your heathenistic needs. You had everything."
Chilling.
It really is. And this manifesto, it offers this rare, unfiltered, although, yes, deeply disturbing look into a perpetrator's mind. You get insights into the twisted grievances, the rationalizations that are often hidden or just speculated about after these tragedies.
Yeah.
But it brings up that critical and just profoundly difficult question. How much of this kind of raw, traumatic material should the public actually see?
Right. The debate about releasing it.
Exactly. There's a drive to understand, of course.
Right.
But releasing it all carries huge risks. Re-traumatizing victims' families, maybe inadvertently glorifying the shooter, or even, God forbid, inspiring copycats. It's a really heavy ethical balancing act between wanting knowledge and the potential for causing more harm.
And despite all that content, he sent the letter, the photos, 25 minutes of video, Only a very small amount was ever actually released publicly by NBC.
Right, just a few photos and maybe a little over 2 minutes of the video.
So the vast majority of that footage, that raw testament to his anger, it's believed to still be locked away, maybe in police archives or perhaps still with NBC.
Yeah, seems likely.
And there hasn't really been any apparent push or public talk about releasing more of it. Maybe that's a deliberate choice, given how volatile it probably is.
Yeah.
Okay, finally, let's turn to an event that's just seared into global memory. The tragic events of September 11th, 2001.
A defining moment.
Over 3,000 innocent lives lost that day. It sparked this huge, decade-long international manhunt for the people responsible, mainly targeting the al-Qaeda leader, Osama bin Laden.
And bin Laden, he wasn't found or killed until almost 10 years later, May 2011.
Right.
The announcement came that this notorious terrorist leader had been killed in a raid by U.S. Navy SEALs in Abbottabad, Pakistan.
A huge moment.
Absolutely. And naturally, given the massive global impact of 9/11 and all the secrecy around the raid itself, the public immediately wanted proof. Concrete proof he was dead.
Understandable.
And it was widely reported that photos of bin Laden's corpse were taken by the SEALs during the mission.
Okay, but here's where things get murky, where the lost media aspect comes in. Despite that huge public demand, intense media focus, those photographs were never released.
Never shown.
Never. And for a lot of people, this lack of undeniable visual proof has just fueled conspiracy theories ever since. Some people still strongly believe Osama bin Laden is actually alive, hiding somewhere.
Yeah, that lack of photographic evidence became a real sticking point, and it instantly raised this important, ongoing question about government transparency, about public trust, and about the sheer power of unverified information, or rumor, when there's no concrete proof to counter it.
Why did they say they wouldn't release them?
Well, the administration at the time gave several reasons. They worried the photos could be used as propaganda by extremist groups. They cited avoiding the desecration of a body, and also, respect for the victims and families not wanting to circulate graphic images.
Okay, those sound like valid concerns.
They are understandable reasons, definitely ethical and security justifications. But the decision, even if well-intentioned, it inadvertently created this void.
Yeah.
And into that void rushed speculation, conspiracy theories. It just shows how a lack of official transparency, even for good reasons, can sometimes erode public confidence and let these alternative narratives grow and stick around for years. It's a really tough dilemma, protecting sensitive info versus keeping the public fully informed and trusting.
So, wow. We've journeyed through some pretty disturbing examples of lost media today, haven't we?
We really have.
From, ancient trepanation and someone filming themselves doing it, to the dark side of the internet with animal cruelty and that collective digital scrubbing. Then the really haunting, unreleased manifesto of a mass shooter, and finally the unseen proof of a global terrorist's death. It's quite a range.
And if you connect all these different examples, look at the bigger picture, it really seems clear that the very act of something becoming lost or being deliberately withheld, sometimes that actually amplifies its impact, maybe even more than if it had been released publicly.
How so?
Well, it creates these gaps in our understanding, right? And those gaps, they get filled by speculation, by rumor, sometimes maybe just by unnecessary quiet. What's hidden, what's deemed too sensitive, or what just fades out of sight, that can often be just as significant as what we can see. It profoundly shapes our understanding, or maybe our lack of understanding, of really key events and even human behavior.
So what does all this mean for you listening right now?
Yeah.
You're navigating this world that's just overflowing with information, but it's also full of these holes, these voids, some intentional, some not. It really makes you ask, doesn't it? What should be accessible to everyone? And what perhaps is genuinely better left unseen? Maybe for society's well-being, or just for individual peace of mind?
It's a really complex, challenging question.
It definitely is. And certainly one worth thinking more about on your own. We really hope you found this deep dive as, thought-provoking and maybe revealing as we did.
Yeah, it's heavy stuff, but important to consider.
Absolutely. If you enjoyed this exploration of the unseen and the untold stories behind lost media, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Horror Docs. We'll have more deep dives into intriguing and often unsettling topics coming your way.